Welcome, everybody. I see millions of fans out there. Awesome. Among them is the Honorable and Distinguished Commissioner Ammon Allen. All rise, please. What does it mean? I said all rise and nobody stood up. Anyway. This is the briefing meeting of the Planning Commission on May 7th, 2024. All commissioners are present except Commissioner Hatch. And Roberts. Missing two chairs. On the agenda tonight, we have the approval of minutes and 3 items for public hearing. One on Fallen Angel Tattoos, then Terrain West Bench Grange Building, and Copper Rim Preliminary Development Plan. So going back to the, and do we have training tonight? No training. So first of all, any questions, concerns with the minutes that we need to discuss? It appears there are none. Can we get a brief overview then of the Fallen Angels proposal?
Yeah, so this will just be a tattoo and body engraving service, which is a conditional use in the Redwood Road overlay zone. So it's on about 70th South and Redwood Road. Do you want me to? Yeah, I can go to the map. So that's the site. It's in a large commercial area. So we don't think parking is going to be an issue. They'll have about 7 artists employed and then 1 client for each of them at a time. So at most, probably 14 people. And we aren't recommending any conditions of approval. So I can answer any questions if you have any.
Commissioner Allen?
Okay. I really like the staff report and I agree. I couldn't think of any particular conditions of approval. More of a question. We've had 2 tattoo places come before us previously, 3. Are any in operation and how are they doing? Do we know?
Yeah, at least 2 of them, but I don't know. Well, but
So they've actually set up. Cool.
My reading of the
Yeah,
materials.
there's one down by, there's one, speak up, Julie, I can't read lips, so.
There is one on the side facing Redwood of Asian City. And
Yeah,
then there's the one south of this next in the Harbor Freight strip. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, third one, so.
There we go.
the meeting book at that too.
We're waiting for the demo when you're done, when you're ready. Okay, thank you, Megan. Briefing on Terrain Grange Building.
This is part of the former Wood Ranch developments, large planned development on the west side of the city, just west of U-111 and the 70th South. So this is phase 2 of 10 phases that'll ultimately be developed. As you may recall, some of you recall, back in November, we did a site plan approval for the Bistro building. This is going to be for the new community hall. So we'll be calling the Wood Ranch project Terrain West Bench. So that's how we'll be referring to it in the future. This is located basically just next to the Bistro. The same issue, we don't anticipate that this building will be used very often, and so they will be using the streets for parking when there is an event there. It's not a very large building. It's about 3,000 square feet. But that's what is being proposed, and we have some conditions of approval, or not conditions of approval. We have some some recommendations for requirements of approval. That's what it's called. So anyway, are there any questions on, I'll just flip over here to the site plan quickly. So the bistro is on the left, the community hall is on the right. And there'll be just kind of a small amphitheater that's located behind the building. Any questions?
This was noticed for public hearing. Who would you notify for a hearing like this, since there aren't really any neighbors?
It's right in the middle of the project. I think there were, what, 3 or 4 notices that went out because that's what's required. I think it's everybody within 300 feet of the project. So since there's nobody there, it's basically the property owners.
Okay, thank you, Ray. And now briefing on the Copper Rim development. This is a large scale revision.
Okay. The Copper Rim development, the initial preliminary development plan was approved back in 2018, so it's been a while. Since that was approved, there was another phase of the development, and that was on the south of the project near 7800 South, which is called the Copper Rim IOZ. It's the interchange overlay zone. Some of the phases on the south side of the project, phases 1 through 3, have been developed or just under or being developed at this point. There's also some subdivision plats that we're looking at now. One that was just recently recorded for what we call Sienna Hills, which is down there by the water tank on the south end of the project. So basically what this amendment involves is the area that's just kind of north of the development that you see here. The applicant has done a lot of research, and I think what I'll do is defer to him to talk through the reasons for his request to eliminate the senior housing that was proposed at the northernmost end of the project. I think there were 204 units that were required as part of that original preliminary development plan. Apparently the applicant is running into difficulty developing and marketing senior housing on that piece of property. And so they're looking at amending the preliminary development plan to eliminate the senior housing, but replace it with some single family homes. So what this will ultimately do is we'll walk you through it. There's a series of slides, and I'll just kind of go through the main changes to the development. But I think overall it'll provide for some good street connection. Also will reduce the overall density of the project because there won't be as many units or dwelling units. So that's kind of what's on the table for tonight. Like I said, we'll just go through the details during the regular meeting.
So on the documentation, it talks about cottage. What is a definition of a cottage?
It's just a term that they came up with there's a cottage lot, a preserve lot, and then there's a small lot that I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically the middle size lot.
Okay.
In this development. It's just a term they came up with.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? If not, we will adjourn until 6 PM, which is about 17 minutes from now. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. So we will call this meeting to order. This is the May 7th, 2024 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of West Jordan City. 5 of 7 commissioners are present. Absent are John Roberts and Trish Hatch, but they are excused. But we do have a quorum. We will begin with the approval of the minutes of our last meeting, which was April 16th. Any questions about the minutes? Commissioner Gonzalez.
I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas.
I'll go ahead and second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Fallen Angel Tattoos on Redwood Road. This is a conditional use permit with public hearing. We'll begin by hearing from Tarina.
Excited to be here tonight.
Thank you.
Get this all moving along. I'm Tarina Carrillo. I'm the owner of Fallen Angel Tattoos. We've been in business almost 12 years at this point in Salt Lake City. We are all female artists, and we are best known for the work we do on breast cancer survivors and trauma survivors. So we were featured on the front page of the Salt Lake Tribune, which was actually picked up by the Associated Press and went international. So that's kind of what we're known for, is helping breast cancer survivors, and then art and stuff like that. I guess we just need to go through this line by line. So one thing I just wanted to clarify really quick. In the wording, it says in body engraving. We don't engrave bodies. That sounds horrible. We tattoo, we put art on people, but we don't carve things into their skin. So there's not really going to be any detrimental effects from the business on the city. Our current city, we actually do charity work. We tend to do an annual event, our Tats for Cats event for Salt Lake County Animal Services. We have our next event coming up here in just 10 days. And year to date, we've raised almost $18,000 for the animal shelter. And we would love to partner with West Jordan City's animal shelter and do something similar to help the city out as well. We like to support our community. I own a home here in West Jordan too, so like to support where I live. The property has ample room for our business to grow. Our current location is about 1,000 square feet. This one's going to be 2,600. So we're more than doubling our square footage and tons of parking, hundreds of spaces. So parking's not going to be a problem. Traffic's not going to be a problem. Our business doesn't really create any traffic just because we only have, I don't know, 3 to 6 clients at a time, and they stay for 3 hours or so and go. So very little traffic. Let's see. There won't be any effect on public safety services at all. We also won't have any effect on the lawful use of any surrounding businesses. We pretty much just go into our little business and do art and go home. So we don't require any additional services from the city or resources. There are not any detrimental effects regarding public health, safety, or welfare. We have never had any violations with the health department. We've always had a perfect record with them. And when people come into our studio, they always comment on how clean and professional it is. And our hours of operation will be about 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're all moms, so we like to go home and spend time with our families and not be out late. So we don't fit the tattoo stereotype of party and rowdy, and no, we're calm, family loving bunch. So our music stays fairly soft, just like with most retail environments. We need to be able to converse with our clients. So there's background music, but nothing loud or parties or anything like that. So no odors or fumes or anything created by our business. Any other questions you have for me regarding our business?
Commissioner Gonzalez has a question.
With your events that you mentioned, what type of the traffic amount? Would that affect parking, the amount, things like
It
that?
wouldn't. This parking lot will handle it very well. Where we've been on State Street, there's very little parking and it still hasn't created any problems. The last couple of years, we've got it actually very streamlined to where people can just get in line and we have volunteers that just go with clipboards and people just kind of schedule their times and then they leave and then they can just come back at their scheduled time. So it's more traffic than we usually have at our business, but still nothing that would fill that parking lot. I wish it would be that kind of turnout, but no, it'll handle the flow really well. That's a big part of why we're moving. It's just State Street doesn't have parking and a safer area for my artists and clients.
You mentioned you have other locations. Will they be closing when you open this one, or are you going to operate them all simultaneously?
I'm still in a lease for a year, so I'm going to keep the other one open for that year until I'm out of my lease there. At that time, I suspect I'll close it unless running both locations goes great, but I think it's probably going to be a little more on my plate than I want.
Commissioner Allen?
Just want to say thank you for being so thorough with the background. You clearly read the staff report like we did. It was like,
I'm like, am I supposed to do this? It doesn't seem like it applies a lot, but just so I don't miss anything.
no, you did well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Megan is representing this item for the city.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll just add a couple things for background. So this is the site. This is part of the Redwood Road Overlay Zone, which allows this type of business as a conditional use. And so it's off of Redwood Road and about 70th South. And it's part of this large commercial area. This is just for context to see kind of what it looks like on the street view. Here's the future land use map. So it's all community commercial. Here's the site plan and like the applicant said, there's plenty of parking. There will at most be usually 14 people on site, including employees and clients. And so we don't think parking is going to be an issue. And here is the floor plan. And like was said, hours of operation Tuesday to Saturday, 11 to 7 p.m. And they are required to follow all the Salt Lake County Health Department regulations. So we are not recommending any conditions of approval because we see no detrimental effects. And I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Questions for Megan? Seeing none, we now will open to public hearing. Is there anybody in the congregation that wishes to address this issue? And if you are online, your hand, *6 to unmute.
None of the people online are raising their hands.
One last chance for you online. If you want to speak, please push *9 to raise your hand. Okay, then public hearing is now closed. Just for the record, the commission's job with this application is to identify reasonably anticipated detrimental effects. The staff report identified none. Has the planning commission identified any? Any questions, comments? If not, then we're ready to hear a motion. Commissioner Gonzalez.
I will go ahead and make a motion.
Commissioner Allen.
I'll second that.
Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit for tattoo and body engraving services located at 6908 South Redwood Road in an SC-2 zone and Redwood Road overlay zone, subject to all the conditions of approval listed in the staff report.
Before we hear the second, the motion includes body engraving services, which the presenter said did not apply. Is that relevant here?
No, it's just what the use is listed as in the use table, so that's correct.
So it's okay to be in the
Yes.
motion? Okay, now we're ready for a second. Second. Commissioner Allen's.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion is unanimous. Next item is Terrain West Bench Grange Building. Gary Langston.
These are still on, is that true?
Yes.
You hear me? Thank you, commissioners. I'm Gary Langston. I'm with Wood Ranch Development. That's the owner, and then I work for Third Cadence. We're the master developer for the project. The building before you is our second commercial building. If you recall, many months ago, we brought to you our bistro building, which is our information center as well. And this is our community center and our HOA offices. Building is a one-story building, very much matches the sister building to the east, or to the west, excuse me. And it's about 3,500 square feet. Also similar to the bistro, it fits within our base camp area. Generally is oriented towards the south with the backside of the building going towards the north, built into the hillside. Materials will range from concrete to metal to some wood. Very much the modern mining motif that we had from the first building. So they're similar in nature, but have very distinct looks to them as well. So with that in mind, love to answer any questions you might have about the specifics of the building or how it's intended to be used. Maybe I'll speak to that real quick, actually. So as the community hall, it does have HOA offices inside the building. There is also an opportunity to have one large gathering space, or we can divide it up into smaller program spaces. So if there's a board meeting on an annual basis, we could hold, I don't know, 100, 150 people there. During the week for average ordinary use, residents of the community, it'll be programmed by the HOA for use of things like aerobics classes, spin classes. I suppose you could have a wedding reception there. We'll have outdoor areas as well that can access both the inside and the outside of the building. And it's really just up to residents on how they want to use that building along with the HOA. But its primary purpose is to serve as an event location for the community and to house offices for our HOA administrative staff. So with that in mind, I'll answer any questions.
Commissioner Allen.
Looking over the site plan here, we harp a lot on parking. So would you address that? We're talking 150 people. I think most of them probably within walking distance, and the hope is that most of them would in fact walk. How much parking is available within, I'll say, a reasonable distance? I'm thinking those with the ADA sticker and accessibility and some of those kinds of things. Just walk us through how that would work out.
Absolutely. So you'll notice on the site plan, the little area that's kind of highlighted in yellow to the southwest. Those 4 ADA stalls are enough to service both buildings. Okay. So from an ADA perspective, we feel like we've handled that. yes, it's a little further away from the second building, but there is an accessible path that allows them to cross the street safely and get to both buildings as required by code. The other parking is on the streets, and we did an analysis that determined, I want to say we did within 100 feet and then 250 feet, but all the required parking can be accommodated on street within 250 feet. We felt like that was adequate. It'd be very similar to what you would experience if you went to a soccer game at the school. If you get there early, you're close. If you're late or it's the second game, you're a little further away. We also feel like an important part of the community is actually encouraging people to walk and to not let cars be the dominant feature. I realize there's always a rub between that idea and having what some would feel is adequate parking, but we believe that the parking needs are met by on-street parking and allows people to attend meetings or events at the site in either building simultaneously in a way that makes sense.
Looks like we're out of questions for you.
Okay.
We'll call you back if we need to.
Thank you.
Ray?
Thank you. I don't have a whole lot to add. I think just in terms of pedestrian access, you notice that there's a trail on the east side of the building that will access area behind. And then there's also a trail system that's just up above this. So there will be pedestrian access to that. We really don't have any concern with the on-street parking. We did it with the bistro just because the buildings would be used intermittently. We don't have any concerns with the height of the building, the orientation, the materials that are used on it. So we really don't see any concerns with what's being proposed. So our recommendation is for approval of the preliminary site plan.
Questions for Mr. McCandless? Mr. Hollingsworth?
The ADA parking, what is the minimum distance that, or the maximum distance a ADA can be from a building?
It's 600 feet with a clear path.
600 feet?
And
Okay.
this is well within that.
All right. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, we will open now for public hearing. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak to this application? If you are online and wish to speak to this application, please push *9. Okay, public hearing is now closed. Does Commission have any further questions or comments? If not, we're open to a motion. Commissioner Allen?
Say, I really like the design and the setup with the community and the feel and the attempt to try to push people to walking. That said, regardless of how I feel, it seems to meet all of the conditions of approval, and I would make a motion to approve. Do we have that on here? Is it on the? There we are. I move that the Planning Commission approve the preliminary site plan for the Terrain West Bench Grange Building Community Hall, subject to meetings all requirements of approval.
I will go
Commissioner?
ahead and second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The vote is unanimous. And if I'm not mistaken, we'll see you back several times more before this project is fully done, right? Well, we'll be happy to see you whenever it is. The final item on the agenda is public hearing item for Copper Rim Preliminary Development Plan. Matt Dean or somebody. If you're not Matt, tell us who you are.
Will the real Matt stand up?
Yes.
Hey, everybody. I'm Matt Dean, representing the applicant, CW Land Company. So Ray, I think it might be helpful to put up the master plan for the 2024 PDP update. I think it's Exhibit E, I think. There we go, on the left. Tonight, I'd like to present to you 8 key points for our proposed preliminary development plan update for Copper Rim for your consideration. Number 1, applicant seeks to remove the 204 age restricted units designation, specifically at Copper Rim Phase 9, which is in the upper northwestern corner of the plan. Simply put, our organization conducted several economic studies for well over a year and a half and found that in every detailed analysis, whether as for rent or for sale product, that the age restricted units just don't work and are infeasible. Low rental rates and low for sale prices. The age restriction is not feasible due to only low rental rates and purchase prices can realistically be achieved for rental or for sale stacked apartment or condominium products at this location. Couple this with high construction costs, the project economics simply do not work and will not be financed by anyone, especially in today's tighter lending and capital environment. Market depth. Further deepening the problem by restricting Phase 9 to 55 plus age restricted market offering is that this is a very shallow pool of potential renters and buyers, which results in a terribly slow absorption pace of potential renters and buyers, and only further exacerbates the infeasibility of economics and lending and results in an unfeasible and low quality project for the developer. Bottom line, an age restricted units project just does not work at this location, whether we self-performed a vertical apartment or condominium project or sold the pad site off to another vertical developer. And our common goal for all of us should be to avoid a failed project. So we're proposing something different. Rather, the removal of the age restricted units designation allows the developer to offer cottage homes to a wider range of buyers who are seeking a quality single family detached for sale product, resulting in market rate price points, greatly improved absorptions, and an economically viable and well-received residential project in the West Jordan market. Number 2, the proposed PDP update proposes a major density reduction for the entire Copper Rim master plan. So just to give you a little bit of chronology on this, when the Copper Rim master plan was originally approved in 2018, it was approved for 753 dwelling units. Then in 2021, there was a first amendment to the MDA approved, bumped that by another 125 units for 878 units. And what we're proposing today is a drastic reduction of 147 units, so down to 731 units, which is lower than the original 2018 approval. That results in nearly a 17% reduction in density for the overall master plan. And if you look at it on a DU per acre basis, back in 2018, it was about 4.3 DU an acre. Now we're proposing somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3.5 DU an acre. This major density reduction in of itself represents a sizable developer concession. Point number 3, the density reduction also results in freeing up an awful lot of culinary water capacity back to the city. The density reduction makes available an additional nearly 150 ERCs of much needed culinary water for city public use or other use on several proposed projects within the city. Point number 4, increased project open space. Through land planning adjustments and the density reduction, the overall open space percentage has been slightly increased from 18.1% back in 2018 to now 18.3% in our proposed 2024 update. The key here is that the Copper Rim project will not only exceed the minimum requirement of 15% open space, but now we have a slightly higher amount at 18.3% dedicated open space for the project. Point number 5, phase line boundary adjustments and minor density shifts for Northern Copper Rim. The majority of the phase line boundaries for Northern Copper Rim, phases 4 through 9, as approved in the 2018 PDP, simply did not work and would not be approved at final plat stage, as these did not allow for 2 points of necessary access for fire, emergency, safety, and necessary looping for water and sewer utilities. Over the past few months, in consultation with the city planning, utilities, engineering, and fire departments, thank you, by the way, the proposed PDP amendment corrects this, and now all phases 4 through 9 have 2 points of road access and necessary looping for water and sewer. For example, phase 4, if you look at the old master plan for phase 4, the phase line is cut off at the top with allowing only 1 point of access. That would have never gotten approved. So what we did in this example was we pulled 12 lots from phase 5 down into phase 4, created 2 points of access into phase 4. But then we took it a step further. We said, let's have the loop finish at 7,000 South. So as part of phase 4, which is in the city right now for plat and civil engineering consideration, we're going to also build Northern Copper Rim Drive from the existing roundabout at about 7,400 South all the way to 7,000 South and complete the loop. Then all the future phases 5 through 9 will just key into that backbone infrastructure. Minor density shifts. The lot widths per the approved 2018 MDA were inconsistently shown on the PDP and preliminary plats and needed to be fixed. Cottage lots are 45-foot wide, preserve lots are 70-foot wide. While reducing the planned density by almost 150 units, and in order to not lose additional density, we simply needed to make some minor density shifts between phases in Northern Copper Rim in order to accommodate the correct lot widths. Point number 6, preservation and protection of the historic dry wash. We did land planning adjustments for Northern Copper Rim phases to accommodate the historic dry wash and natural open space drainage corridor that runs north to south through the project. Installation of channel stabilization improvements along the dry wash running through Copper Rim at phases 4, 6, and 7 will result in the preservation and protection of that historic dry wash. Point number 7, the PDP update cleans up some inconsistencies shown in the 2018 PDP. For example, as I alluded to earlier, the preserved lot widths are shown as both 70 and 72 feet wide in the 2018 PDP, and yet were also reflected in all the 2018 city-approved preliminary plats at 70 feet wide. So the PDP update cleans up those inconsistencies with all the preserved lots now shown as 70 feet wide, correctly shown. Finally, point number 8, the 2018 Phase 9 exterior loop road is infeasible. So if you look at the old master plan with a loop road surrounding Phase 9, a couple things going on there, safety and traffic congestion. From that shown within the 2018 PDP, we're proposing to move the connection point to 7,000 South further to the east to align with the existing intersection at Tourist Lane at the Ochre Highlands subdivision to the north. Why are we doing this? 7,000 South will become a main arterial when the road is widened and the UDOT bridge over Mountain View corridor is completed, and is likely to experience heavy traffic congestion during peak hours. By moving the loop road connection at 7,000 South to the east, this new intersection prevents an additional intersection at 7,000 South being too close to the future MVC overpass, which creates a much safer vehicular, pedestrian, bicycle intersection conditions. Existing topography and steep grades. The steep grades within the entire western half of Phase 9 simply make this portion of the site undevelopable for safe roadways. As shown in the 2018 MDA, the installation of an exterior loop road at this location will require massive cuts, fills, and extensive retaining walls, essentially devastating the site's natural grading. Rather, we propose to concentrate the density to the best extent that we can on the site's eastern half in order to minimize development footprint, which will blend and sit the project and its road platforms more naturally into the site's topography. In conclusion, for all these reasons, we are in alignment with city staff that the proposed PDP amendment, as recommended for approval, results in positive changes and a much enhanced and much better land plan for the current and future residents of the Copper Rim community and West Jordan City as a whole. We look forward to your questions and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Dean? Commissioner Allen?
Back to the very first one with that senior housing, I don't dispute. I'm just more of a curiosity. Through the research, has something changed since 2018 and now to make this non-viable, or was it just an oversight back in 2018?
You know, I wasn't around 2018, so I can't really comment on that. I didn't start on the project till about a year and a half ago. However, in our economic analysis for the last year and a half, the rental, I'll just give you an example of the rental rates. The largest rental rate that can be supported on this site is sub $2 per square foot per month. And you can't build anything for sub $2 per square foot per month. So we have the same issue with price points on the for sale side. So our proposal is just to remove the density and do something that will get built.
Thanks.
Sure.
Other questions? Okay. Thank you, Matt. We'll call you back up if we
Thank
have
you.
more questions later. Mr. McCandless again.
Thank you. Mr. Dean has gone through basically every bullet point that I was going to go through. Just a couple of comments is that, and we really like how phase 6 has been modified, because now you get vehicular and pedestrian connectivity where it was a little disjointed before. In addition to there are some lots here that are on the west side of phase 6 in the 2018 plan. Were kind of 4-packs that were served by just little private driveways, but we think that the layout and the lot layout and configuration as shown now, I think is really improved. So this has gone through a lot of iterations, a lot of meetings, but we think what we've ended up with here is a good project, good plan. Again, this only affects the area that is north, basically north of the roundabout. So our recommendation is that the Planning Commission forward a favorable recommendation to the council to amend the preliminary development plan for Copper Rim.
Okay, thank you. I have a question about the commercial piece at the south end of this development. Furniture Row has got steel there. And last I heard, they do have a building permit request in. Do we have any idea of what might happen with the rest of that commercial development? Or any motion on that yet?
We will be looking at another subdivision plats or other subdivision plats in the future. The only one we have to this day, at this date, is just for that first phase on the south side. So we'll be looking at that later, and those subdivision plats will be brought back to the Planning Commission for consideration. So we'll be looking at access, layout of the subdivision plat, and how those are integrated with a previous approval for the overall interchange overlay zone. and how it fits in with that development plan that was approved back then. So
Thank you.
And Chair Nguyen, all the commercial site plans will be coming to you for review. I know in speaking with our economic development manager, they're actively looking at programming additional pad sites out to the Furniture Row that you've indicated is close to starting construction. So you'll see that hopefully in the near future.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Hollingsworth.
So with the changes, if I understood it correctly, there was a increase in the recreation area overall. Is that correct?
it was just the open space and it was just it
Just
was a
open space?
It was a small. yeah,
So
small-
with the addition of or making this change to into single family homes, the cottages, is there going to be any type of requirement for like playground equipment or anything like that?
That's good. That's a good question. The amenity package hasn't changed from the original. There's going to be, I think, 3 tot lots. There was an originally, I think some community gardens that were shown west of Phase 9, but that's since changed to a tot lot. So I think that would be better for those single family homes.
What's a
But
top
that's
lot?
just swing set,
Think so, okay.
slide.
Slide, okay. I was thinking the shopping area for tots, you know?
Tater tots, yeah.
Sorry.
Commissioner Allen?
I always noticed 70 South was planned to go over Mountain View corridor, but there's this other one kind of halfway, midway through the project. That's also going to be crossing over Mountain View?
Sorry, would you mind stating them again?
The road from the roundabout
Yeah,
heading
7400.
west, that's going to be crossing over Mountain View at some
Yes.
point?
Correct. In order to do that, we need to get the road on the west side completed, at which point we can schedule UDOT to come in and complete the bridge.
Cool. Who is responsible, or what point, I should say, which development is going to take place that will take care of that road on the west side?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I don't think I can answer that one.
Thanks.
That, the road we're talking about, just on the other side of Mountain View doesn't, I may be mistaken, but doesn't that lead directly to that new Maple Hills Park?
Correct. Yes, it would.
So, a big park not too far away. Okay, if there are no more questions, we will open this item for public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience today that would like to address this item? Is there anybody online? If you're online and would like to address this application, push *9.
Okay, we have Ryan Wilkinson.
Ryan?
Yeah, hello?
Yes, so we can hear you. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Oh, good. Hey, just listening to the presentation today, this feels like a bit of a bait and switch, and I don't understand if it doesn't make fiscal sense to not put in the retirement community or the 55 and up or whatever you're calling it, or we're calling it. You're just identifying this now, 6 years into this project, or was it always known? I just don't understand that portion of it. That aside, my main concern here is with east-west traffic in the last mayoral election here in West Jordan. Both mayoral candidates, who are both incompetent and feckless, they both had on their campaign platforms, they were concerned with east-west travel. Now I'm new to West Jordan, hopefully leaving soon, but I remember visiting the city, 20 plus years ago when I dated a girl there, and east-west travel was a problem back then. And this is just now making it to the mayoral platforms. What's going on? You guys are insane down there. And now there's going to be 700 plus more houses out on the west side. They're going to have to go east every morning. I'm going to have to compete with, and then going back out at night. Why is this a good idea? And here's the thing: if the police there would just enforce the left lane travel law, 41-6A-704 in the Utah Code, we could all use the left lane to pass all these slow jackasses who live out there. But no, the cops issued 2 citations in West Jordan for that statute last year. 2 out of the 58 plus million traffic trips that took place in West Jordan in a calendar year. Two citations for that. So they don't enforce that law. People drive slow in the left lane. East-west travel is impossible. Now we're adding 700 plus more houses out there. No, I have a problem with this. If you enforce the law and I can go east-west, maybe it might be different. The cops are incompetent. They don't enforce it. The mayoral candidates are incompetent. They're dealing with this problem 40 years after it was a major issue. So no, I'm opposed to it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else online?
Nobody's got their hand raised.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, wait,
Anybody?
hold on. Let's see. Niels?
Neil, would you like to speak?
Yes, are you there?
Yes, we hear you. You can have 3 minutes.
Oh, that was my fault. Hold on. That's okay. Sorry. Go ahead and start again.
Neil, are you there still?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we got you. Go ahead.
Okay, so I own a townhouse just to the north and the prevailing winds come from the south and they really come up over that ridge sometimes. And this construction project could create an enormous dust problem for anyone living to the north. And I was wondering if there are any plans to mitigate the dust that this project will generate. That's my question.
Todd? Go
Sure,
ahead.
I'd be happy to chime in. All projects are required to go through what we call a SWIP plan here. It's part of the environmental purpose with the state. It's a full packet of best management practices, which addresses dust during the construction process. After the construction process, the amount of dust will go down dramatically just due to the nature of yards and finished spaces out there. So while the construction process may bring a little bit of dust, there should be controls in place to help mitigate that. And after construction, the amount of dust should be drastically reduced.
Thank you. Caller, are you still on the line? Okay. Anybody else? Public hearing is now closed. Are there additional questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Thomas.
I just want to make a statement before we go ahead with a motion. The first caller was talking about a bait and switch, which in my opinion, it kind of is, but we're going from a Nissan to a Cadillac. So it's kind of the opposite part of that. As near as I can calculate, travel will be reduced as far as traffic because there's going to be fewer housing units. The density is going to be fewer. So that's going to reduce that also. And then with the bridge over 70th, I think it's been presented as a very well project, even though we've kind of changed the outlook of the whole process. I think it's for the betterment of that area and for the community. So kudos.
The first caller also mentioned economic viability. Is there anybody that would like to address that and add any comments on the traffic concerns? Ray?
Well, I don't know that I can address the economic part of it, but as far as the traffic concern, this paves the way for better east-west connections. It'd be you know, it's setting the stage for those bridges that'll cross over on 70th and the 74th.
Okay, thank you.
And would comment that typically in these types of applications, you don't look at economic viability at all as a concern. So you just stick with the code and regulation requirements.
Good point. Commissioner Allen?
I agree with what Commissioner Thomas said. I remember looking at the 2021 update and this redesign, the proposal eliminates a lot of the questions that we had and a lot of the concerns that we had, even looking at that point. I remember the loop road, the elevations and some of the slopes were just barely eking in there, and there were some other concerns. And just in general, the site looks more navigable. I think it's very appropriate. I really like it. So, and then of course, echoing the last statement, the 2018 approval already occurred with the 2021 update. The fact that we're moving now to this potential preliminary development plan, the proposal reduces that. And so it is going to improve the traffic congestion issues over what had been previously approved. So I'm 100% on board. Happy to make a motion if nobody else is interested in speaking.
Go ahead.
I move that the Planning Commission forward a favorable recommendation to the City Council to amend the Copper Rim Preliminary Development Plan and update the Master Development Agreement to reflect the proposed changes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
I will go ahead and second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Commissioner
Make-
Thomas,
Make a motion that we adjourn.
good idea.